good morning. I'll be giving a brief overview of uh, the work that we're doing with DFAR through the USAID Fish Right and what we're doing with data, actually mainly data collection and analyzing it to help fight IUU fishing primarily in our sites in the Calamianes, a group of islands, the Science Sea, and Southern Negros. So a few days ago, I actually saw this post from Secretary Vilidar on the DA's move to digitize agri-fishery. So he emphasized the importance of monitoring and evaluation and making sure that we're on the right path towards the goals that we want to see. At the same time, I saw this quote also from a work in 2009 that looked at GDP and whether it's the correct measure for progress in countries. And this is a good quote because it says, what we measure shapes what we collectively strive to pursue, and what we pursue determines what we measure. So essentially, if you look at any program, look at their M&E, look at the indicators that they use to measure how well they're doing. It will tell you, it will show you that, give you an idea of what their priorities are. So when it comes to illegal fishing, how do you usually measure it? It's not an easy task to measure IUU fishing. It's illicit trade. It's by definition, it's hidden and it's hard to quantify. So what we're doing a lot in the enforcement teams, the different groups, they're usually reporting more on the effort side, what we are doing, which is more on number of operations conducted, number of illegal fishers apprehended, and fines collected. These are not necessarily bad. Actually, it's a good. These are good indicators. It tells you how much we're actually putting effort into fighting IUU fishing. But the problem is it's not enough because it doesn't tell us how much have we really prevented, deterred, and moved forward in terms of eliminating IUU fishing, and how far are we from achieving our objective of eliminating it. So what we did with the Fish Right for our sites, we did IUU fishing assessments together with, so I'm working here together with Attorney Wilmon Peñalosa from Negros Occidental. And we've gone through different LGUs, more than 25 LGUs so far. And we've conducted these assessments. Basically in the assessments, what we wanted was to identify what else can be done to fight IUU fishing, given the limitations that we have now, especially when it comes to enforcement. When you talk about IUU fishing or illegal fishing and ask the people what they need, the community and the LGUs, usually the first thing that they say are related to enforcement. We need more patrol vessels, we need more skills training, we need equipment and stuff. So it's very costly to establish those things, and it's also costly to maintain them. Doesn't mean that we don't go with that. Actually, we still need that, and definitely any form of measures to reduce IUU fishing needs to have effective enforcement in that mix. But what we wanted to do is, even if we have those limitations, although we're expecting an increase in LGU revenues or LGU allocations based on the presentation of Gov Bandanas by 2022, we don't want to focus so much on that for now. So we want to focus on what the resources that we have and what we can do right now. So we look at current responses. We start with the strengths of the people now, the LGUs. Then we have developed these simple matrices to help estimate prevalence. Basically, how big of a threat is IUU fishing? It's not just about counting the incidences, counting the reports. We need to relate that to impact in terms of biomass that's lost, income that's lost, and livelihoods that are lost, habitats that are destroyed. We need to move it forward, the metrics. Instead of just counting how many are illegal, we need to move it forward to what are we losing? And then what's the benefit? If we actually invest this much in enforcement, how much can we gain from removing IUU fishing? So we also wanted to explore motivations, drivers, and buyers and gaps. Although we weren't able to delve this deeper, but hopefully the next presentation of Amraki will show a bit more on this side. So we wanted to see the complexity of IUU fishing. Illegal fishing is not just about fishers using illegal fishing gears and then enforcers catching them. That's the simple idea, but it's solving that kind of situation is not really simple. So we need to look at the underlying, as mentioned by Gov Mandanas. it's hard to tackle IUU fishing head on if you don't tackle the other issues like poverty, livelihoods, other livelihoods that we need. So we need to go under that and need to go beyond that and see why are fishers fishing illegally and why are the fishers who are complying. So what are the reasons and motivations? Then we go, and then from there we can identify targeted responses, revise what is being done, not really make new programs, but make the existing programs more purposive so that they actually reduce IUU fishing and they don't just get stuck with going after the illegal fishers. So for me, the ultimate metric of how we're doing with IUU fishing is how many people, how many illegal fishers have we actually converted and they're no longer fishing illegally. And further than that, how many of those illegal fishers who have converted help their other peers move from illegal fishing gears towards the legal fishing methods. So from that, we did develop this matrix. The matrix called prevalence matrix. So basically, we use perceptions. So in the absence of observations and data right now, for most of our sites, we use perceptions. People, we targeted people who have a good knowledge in terms of enforcement or who really live by the coast so that they see what's happening at the coast on a day-to-day basis. We wanted to, we asked them to give some numbers in terms of estimates of incidences per month. And then we had a accompanying catch matrix, catch per incidence matrices with this one. So we can multiply that and get some estimate of the annual yield. So this is just a very rough estimation, but at least we can get an idea whether we are around, the illegal fishers getting half of the production of the municipal waters, or are they getting 10% or 5% or 3%? So at least that gives us a starting point to work with. And now if we look at an example, so this for Northern Iloilo, what we also ask is whether the violators are residents and where the violations are occurring. This is very important when it comes to trying to identify what we can do. We don't want to tackle IUU everything at the same time. We want it more targeted, at least hopefully in the future, we have it more targeted so that the same way that we're developing programs for sardines, programs for tuna, we also have specific interventions for blast fishing, dynamite fishing, use of destructive fishing gears, commercial fishing in water, in municipal waters. And it's not the same intervention for all and everything, all illegal fishing. So in this case, what you can see in Iloilo is that although there are a lot of blast fishing, but when you look at yield, estimated yield in terms of metric tons, a lot of that illegal fishing in northern Iloilo in terms of catch is actually coming from hulbut-hulbut, modified Danish seine, and then other commercial fishing vessels entering municipal waters like purse seiners, and also troll fishing. And if you look at that, a lot of those are coming from outside, doing illegal fishing inside the waters. But also at the same time, you have residents, that is people from Iloilo, fishing, doing illegal fishing activities inside, and also those from Iloilo doing fishing activities elsewhere. So that's also important because this helps us identify the residents. It's easier to control to manage the residents compared to those outsiders. So you can have a lot of different programs, IEC, training, capacity building, livelihood support for your own residents than it is to handle those coming from outside. But what's important is even if the violator is a resident of Iloilo, but they're committing violations elsewhere, then the LGUs where that violator comes from has a responsibility as well to ensure that their own constituents do not commit violations, whether inside their waters or elsewhere. So hindi pwedeng bawal lang mangisda sa water ko, pero kung sa iba ka manghuli, okay lang. So we have to be more collective in terms of that effort. Now, if we rough estimate, add those together for Calamianes, Southern Negros, and Visayas Sea, we get this figure. 900 metric tons a year are lost from IUU fishing in Calamianes Island groups. Average, or based not average, just from the estimates, so there's a range still there. Visayas Sea is around 3,500, Southern Negros is around 1,300. And if you look at it, that amount is actually huge. it's from 45 million pesos to 175 millions. All in all, for the 25 LGUs, illegal fishing is actually removing 225 million pesos from municipal waters. So imagine the benefit if you actually regulate them or address them. And then the resources, one is you can tap those into those resources, or that can help in terms of rebuilding the stocks that are already depleted inside the municipal waters. So now we want to transition from that perception base to more observation, and so that we have more rigor and we're more objective in what we're estimating. So observations are very important. Unfortunately, we don't have a good system now of collating that. Apprehensions data is really good. Even that is not being analyzed yet extensively. It's mainly analyzed in relation to enforcement, but not in relation to impact, for example. So we want to represent, it represents only a subset of the IUU fishing activities, the ones that are being caught. So we need better community reporting, recording, analysis, and feedback. There are already existing programs. There's a Karagatan Patrol, there's the Daloy, there's the even the hotlines, the PNP hotlines, and the 888 hotlines, but they're not being consolidated, and the information from different enforcement agencies are also still not being consolidated to analyze the picture as a whole for the entire country. So why should we measure IUU fishing impact? This is from the VIRS. This is my work, part of my PhD that I did in University of Hawaii. So I looked at the lights at night. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with this, especially those in the enforcement field. But you can see that this limited this is limited to lights only. So what if we can shift this and actually, instead of showing just, this is monthly lights, instead of just showing monthly trends, we can actually use observations. So then we have these kinds of information in the future. So would this be helpful? So lessons learned. We want to analyze enforcement-related data more. We need to analyze enforcement-related data, mine it as we can, as much as we can. Strengthen the existing programs. We need better metrics for tracking progress. And we also need to understand the complexity of the IUU fishing issues. We need to go beyond just catching fishers and making sure that they're actually deterred and no longer go back to illegal fishing activities. And lastly, wonderful effort is we're developing a nationwide assessment using a Delphi approach. Delphi uses expert opinion, and it's not really to estimate. This is used a lot in medical fields, for example, estimating prevalence of dengue, for example. So we're partnering with several groups, including UP Statistics and RARE, to get a better estimate of how much fish is lost due to IUU fishing in the Philippines. So, maraming salamat. Hope you learned from my presentation.